Right now, I'm honored to have as a guest in the studio Halbert Sullivan, who's the CEO of Father Support Center here in St. Louis. And Halbert, welcome in.
How you doing, Mark? Thanks for having us.
Hey, thanks for coming in. We really appreciate it. Tell me a little bit about the Father Support Center.
Well, we work at the center to impact outcomes for children. Our goal is to give kids their dads back. Children who grew up without their fathers are 5 times more likely to commit suicide, 10 times more likely to be involved in drugs, 20 times more likely to go to prison, and 20 times more likely to get pregnant. So when you can give kids a good, responsible dad, you decrease those negatives in our community.
Well, sure you do. And what kind of numbers have you served at the support center?
Oh man, well, we've been in business since 1997. And we've served around 34. Well, actually, the dads, we've served a little over 13,000. So
wow.
Like about 13,500. And kids, we've served a little over 34,000 kids.
So when let's talk about the dads for a minute. I'm sure they're coming at this from a variety of different places. Maybe some have hit financial hardship and were unable to be involved in their kids' lives. Maybe, I assume, people might have been incarcerated and they get back out, and trying to reform that family is not an easy thing. Maybe you can describe a couple of these scenarios and how you guys try to help.
Well, you've done a great job. We serve that whole group that you just mentioned. What I call our regular dads. They come out of the low-income population, pretty close related to the TANF population, where they just wasn't ready to be parents, and they did not understand that when a lady gets on TANF that there's a child support order generated, and they're low-income, uneducated to no educated. That's one population of dads. And we also work with those dads who are coming out. That's our reentry population. With the reentry population, we'll work with those dads 6 months prior to their release, start preparing them to come out, start preparing them to reunify with their family where possible, and preparing them for employment. With the first population of dads, we also prepare them for employment as well. We could talk about the value of a dad or a parent spending time, and that's just great. Got to spend that time. But if a dad doesn't have a job, that's not going to work out.
Well, and I'm assuming that another barrier to that is if you've been separated from your family for a while, or you have a large amount of child support that you owe. First of all, a job is a barrier to it, and then being accepted again, if you've got to try to bring all that back together, those are a lot of challenges to face.
A lot of challenges. Through our family formation program is where we provide our fatherhood services, and we work with the guys on relationship skills building, helping them to understand how to interact with the mother of the child, as well as how to interact with the child. We have parenting classes for them to help them with that. But most important is, how do you interact with that mom when you've been away,
right? And
you want to try to be a part of that child's life. So it's real important that he has some skills on how to work with her, because they got to work together. And if he's involved with his child, he is more likely to voluntarily pay child support or be financially supportive. In about 2002, the Office of Child Support Enforcement for the state put out a report. The report stated simply that of the dads with child support orders and visitation, 75% of those dads paid child support, versus dads with child support orders and no visitation, only 35%. So our goal is to get him with his child so that he can increase his financial support. But more than that, the father cannot be seen as just a cash register. He has to also be involved with the child so he have an impact on that child's development, both socially and emotionally, so that we can sort of put a curveball on some of these behavior problems that we're now confronted with in our community, largely related to dads not being directly involved to have an impact on the development of a child. So we want to stop society from thinking about our dads as a cash register and think about them as parents.
Yeah. And you've got to get there, and you've got to get the word out for the services that you provide. You said you worked with children too. Is that mothers and children trying to reunite the families, or?
Well, when I say I work with children, our work impacts the children.
Right.
So we work through the vehicle of the parent to bring an impact on the children. Now, we do have a program where we work with the moms. We just put that together. The Father Support Center, we've been around since 1997.
Right.
And we just put the Moms Project together 2 years ago so
Okay.
that we can work with the mothers. We also have a youth program working with youth ages 14 up until about 22 years old. So we can try to redirect some of their negative behavior and have an impact on their decisions to either stay in school, go into a trade situation, and go into employment. We got to try to curb this thing about going out on the streets. And when you have some input from a solid area, the children are more likely to stay involved with school, get a decent education, and they can get a decent job.
Well, how big an area do you cover?
Oh, we cover the whole St. Louis City, St. Charles, the whole nine.
So St. Louis County, yeah.
Franklin County.
Can't,
Yeah,
I know
the whole area.
I know it can't be cheap.
No.
What do you do to raise funds?
Man, well, I hope I get some help from being on this radio station.
Me too. Yeah, that's where we're going.
Well, we get a lot of support from the government. We get federal grants, we get state grants, we get city grants. One of our best city grants is to do reentry services for those who have finished incarceration, who oftentimes wind up living on the streets. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we get a significant amount of funding support from private donations and corporations and foundations. We've got great support here in St. Louis. I mean, I travel all over the country, and the people want to ask me about Ferguson. That's good. That's their priority. But Ferguson is not St. Louis. We've got the best support in this city than a whole lot of other major cities. In St. Louis, our United Way just raised $75 million. That's the 8th largest giving in the country. Comes out of St. Louis, and we're not the 8th largest city. We're about the 20th largest city. So we get great support out of our city.
I know through the course of the year you have trivia nights and all sorts of events to try to raise money. If people want to go to the website, let me give you that. FathersSupportCenter.org is the website. The top right side of that website, there's a button that says you can donate now if you want to show your support for them. Or they've got events throughout the course of each year when people can go. I see you had a trap shooting event there at some point for Sporting Clays. That looks like a lot of fun. Trivia nights, fun. Father of the Year, a toast to fathers.
Fun. The clay pigeon shoot was really fun. That was really fun, yes. And we certainly appreciate your support. It's expanding. We recently opened up a site in Ferguson, and we're trying to generate enough resources to get that wide open and get it fully up to snuff. We've been supported mostly with dollars from Emerson and Bank of America, but we need to gather as much as we can so that we can put a full foot into serving the community of Ferguson.
Yeah, I can't think of a better effort because we talk a lot on this radio station about the importance of family and obviously this time of year, I mean, that's a struggle for everyone. Everyone wants to be with their family, and it's not always possible. And we thank you for your efforts over at the Father Support Center.
But the family is where it comes from.
Sure.
When kids are growing up from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they want to please their parents, and they're going to mimic their parents and the friends that the parents have around them. So when the parents are doing positive, good child-rearing things, kids get a better outcome. Sure. Again, I certainly appreciate you for allowing us this opportunity.
You bet. Let me give you a phone number in case you want. Do you have a preference for phone numbers here, Halbert? Let me ask.
Well, let's go with the 314-333-4170.
Okay, good. So that's the main location, and then you can also go to the website, FathersSupportCenter.org. Halbert Sullivan, CEO of the Father Support Center, thank you for your time. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you, and Merry Christmas.